about 5 or 6 hours with you today, okay? So we took the liberty of taking some notes already for you, because some of this is going to go by pretty quick. If you text the word credit to 602-497-2257, you'll get, this is 6 pages of notes that's really going to cover the 4 rounds of funding. Not funding, 4 rounds of building business credit. And we'll get to that. But look, the lender's going to find out. They always find out, right? Okay, these are ways to get access to tax IDs, different types of tax IDs. All of these strategies are ways to, what are the reason people deny you? Because you haven't been in business long enough, you don't have enough history, credit history. So these are ways for people to get access to other people's time in business, other people's tax IDs, other people's track record or payment histories, right? It's not illegal. There's no law currently against doing this, but lenders want to know what your track record is, and they don't care what Bob's track record is over there, because if Bob wanted money, then Bob should apply, but you can't borrow Bob's stuff and then have me lend it to you based off of Bob. That's basically what we're talking about here. Now, if you expect money to fall from the sky with no work or no qualification, right? There's some people who have paid for our coaching or bought our book, and they're like, I don't have any money yet. Well, what did you do in chapter 6 for your starter vendors? I haven't got to chapter 6. You got to read if you buy the book, you got to read the book, right? If you're going to use our program, you've got to work with our financial advisory team, right? Just because I say that because there are some people who think if they buy an education, if they buy a book, if they buy some video series or something like that, that somehow through osmosis, success just comes from having purchased it. Success from any system that you use comes when you actually use the system, when you actually have taken it. So, are we good? All right, if you intend on getting money with with no personal guarantee and then not paying it back. So, there are some people who have come up with this crazy idea that their personal finances are in shambles, and if they could get business credit and then transfer all of their debt to their business and then just let the business go, and then their personal will be fine, right? That's highly unethical. And a bankruptcy judge that's worth his salt will figure out what you've done, unravel it, and still attach all that debt back to you. But it doesn't stop people from trying. So if any of those ideas, and I'm sorry to start off, and maybe you guys are all innocent as snow, and I've just stained you with all these horrible tricks. I just want to let you know, don't field me any questions about these kind of things, because we only deal with ethical ways of building business credit and using them for legitimate business purposes. Are we good? Okay. All right then. So, these are the wise guys in ties. You know what they do? They use business credit for their rental properties. Well, they use business credit for everything, but you know what's really cool about using business credit for your rental properties? They use, here's the great thing. Who here has a rental property? Show of hands. 4 people. So let me ask you, on your rental property, if the water heater goes out, who pays for that?
Business credit.
Your business credit? Do you have business credit? You have business credit right now?
I don't have it around yet, but I know that's what it is.
Oh, all right. Well, for those of us who are living in a world with no business credit, who pays for it?
We do.
You do. And then hopefully over time you transfer that cost bit by bit to your tenant. But the roof could go out, the air conditioning could go out. I mean, is it uncommon for there to be an $8,000 repair on a property? Could there be something as devastating as a $15,000 repair that needs to be done on a property? And if you're collecting, let's say the average rent payment is $1,200 a month, is that going to come anywhere near paying for that repair? I mean, does that just basically just make the whole year's profit shot? It does. Now, if you buy real estate and you put your rental in a business, so you don't own it personally, but you own a business, and then your business owns the rental property, so the rent comes to the business, the payment comes to the business. Now you take your business and you build business credit, and let's say you build it to the tune of $50,000. Now, something goes wrong. You get that call in the middle of the night, you send out the guy, he fixes it, you get the invoice for $15,000, whip out your business credit card, slide that sucker, right? And it's paid for. Now at a simple interest, your payment on that might be less than $200. So depending on what your cash flow is, let's say you have a rental property bringing in $1,200 a month, but maybe the mortgage you're paying on it is $700-800. Is there enough gap, enough space in there to cover that $200 a month cost? Yeah, so that's what Ray and I do. We use business credit on our rentals, so the business credit pays for the incidentals. Now, when that's the case, because if you have a rental property and you don't have some kind of backup like that, you have to create your own backup. So all that rent money comes in and you're feeling like you're top of the world, you're king, but you're like, no, I set all that money aside. It's one of those look but don't touch. Like, oh man, I'd love to have that money, but that's there in case something breaks, right? Now, imagine if you had business credit in place and rent comes in and you could actually just put that into the national bank of your back hip pocket, right? You just keep more of what you make on your rent. Would that be good or would that be great? All right. Anybody here do fix and flips? Right? Some people here? Okay. Now, business credit doesn't just work with real estate. We help over-the-road truckers, beauty salon folks. We have nonprofits. There's a lot of different people that we work with. But this is a business partner of mine, Stephen Weibel. Back in 2008, he was the number 5 realtor in all of New Jersey. Let me just sum it up. He was able to use business credit this way. Has anybody heard of hard money? Yeah. Right? Yeah. You guys heard of hard money? So to get access to hard money, they want you to have some skin in the game, right? You've got to put some money out before they will give you any of theirs. Well, he built business credit, and so he used his proof of funds from his business lines to be his skin in the game. And hard money lenders will accept that, right? So he didn't have to come out of any pocket. He got access to, well, it was a very, very special, unique deal. Because remember, 2007, this was in 2008, but what was happening to houses? Like entire subdivisions were all in foreclosure, right? I mean, he negotiated a 36-house short sale, pre-foreclosure, because the whole neighborhood was going under. And it just so happens, because it was a brand new subdivision and everything, it was all financed by the same bank. So he just did a huge short sale. The hard money lender came in and they just bought it for like something, I think he said 45 cents on the dollar. So what did he do? Well, he fixed up half of those houses because they really weren't in that bad repair, and he just sold them. Paid off the hard money lender from the profit, because if you can buy a house at 40 cents on the dollar, even if it at that time had lost 20 cents on the dollar worth of value, do you see that there's still a spread there, a profit? So he just sells these houses, and people were wanting to buy because they had to get out of their houses they couldn't afford into a house that they could afford. So he provided safe, affordable, clean housing, and at a reasonable price that people could pay. And so he paid off his hard money lender with all of that profit and still kept 16 houses free and clear for himself. That was back in 2008. Since then, I mean, he grew that business huge, had hundreds of rental properties, actually recently sold all of that. But guess who's a hard money lender now? This guy. If you're in Florida and you want to invest in Florida, look up this guy, and he's your hard money lender these days. Oh, that's Steven, right? You met him on the phone?
Yes.
That's Stephen right there, just so you know, if you want to put a face with a voice. So, hi, welcome.
Hi.
If you need money, where do you go when you need money?
You.
Yeah, why not? Sure. Where do you go if you need money? I mean, if you need not like $5, right? You need 150,000. Where do you go? You go to the bank, right? Well, let's take a look at the reality here. Here's 10 different business owners all going to the bank asking for 150,000 or more. So you're all here. You're show of hands. Who are my business owners again? Over here. All right. Would you stand up? And you stand up. Go ahead. You two stand up. You guys, both of you stand up. You two in the back there stand up. That's it. 1, 2. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to need you to stand up, Ray. Any other business? Oh, you said you were a business owner. Yeah, go ahead, stand up. Okay, now we have 10 business owners currently standing up in the room. All right. Ma'am, you in the back that just showed up, are you a business owner?
Yes.
All right, great. So here's our 10 business owners all here. I'm the bank, and you're all coming to me because you need $150,000 to $250,000 of capital for your business. Now, I will give you a demonstration of what actually happens. So you've all applied, and so I'm meeting with you, and I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm afraid you've been declined due to not enough cash flow. So please have a seat. You're welcome to apply again in 30 days. All right. I'm sorry, but again, you don't have any cash flow either. Your business isn't making enough, so go ahead and have a seat. Now, ma'am, in your situation, you just don't have enough credit. There's no business credit we weren't able to find, so you can't qualify for this loan at this time. In fact, you don't have any business credit either, so both of you please sit down. Now, gentlemen, your business credit's okay, but your personal credit is actually suffering on this loan, so I'm afraid you've been declined due to personal credit issues, so please have a seat.
Does that really affect you?
Yeah, in fact, the three of you, I'm sorry, we actually have some character issues on your application to some things. It's just not right. We're not sure. Some shades here. The information you provided us doesn't match with what we have on record.
The go-go dancer doesn't work?
Please have a seat. And this gentleman here, he gets the loan.
Congratulations. Thank you. I was going to put you on the naughty list.
I have to be dressed right.
Guys, 10 people applied for a loan. How many got it? Guys, that's the sad reality. That's the current state of the way it is when you go to, when entrepreneurs apply to the bank. And the reasons I just gave you were the reasons that people get declined.
So your personal can cancel out your business credit?
It just depends on how much you're asking for.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to show you how to get business credit without having to use your personal guarantee. But at some point, your personal credit will always be a factor. Let's say you're applying for a $20 million SBA loan. You think they're not going to want to check your personal credit? Okay. Now, I mean, let's say you're just applying for a $20,000 corporate credit card. Yeah, they don't need to see your personal credit for that. But I mean, at some point, the more money you want, you will have your personal credit. But how they, what that's for varies. And for if you have no business credit, if you have no cash flow, if you have no collateral at all, right, then they're going to rely heavily on your personal guarantee. But if you have all of those other things, then the personal guarantee is just extra. It just makes them feel better. It doesn't disqualify you from the loan, right? But it's just what they need. But let's take a look at it from the lender's perspective. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics tells us that more than half of businesses will fail in the first 5 years. Well, those business loans are for about 5 years. So think of me as the bank. There is a good chance that all those people standing up, half of you, and I don't know which half, are going to be out of business. Maybe even more. Maybe 7 of you are going to be out of business in the next 5 years. You might file for bankruptcy. How do I get my money back? Right? Would you lend money to people that you knew that were going to be bankrupt or broke in the next 5 years? Yeah, no. So neither would the bank, right? They're not running a charity. They're for profit. But take a look at this stat. 82% of businesses that fail because they don't have cash flow. Let me tell you the sad truth about lending. You might instinctively know this, but let me crystallize it for you. If you really need money bad, nobody wants to give you any money. Right? Now, if you're doing okay, you're fine, everybody wants to give you money. I don't know, why are you doing fine? I want to be fine, just like you're fine. So let me jump on that bandwagon. So that's the way it is. So how do you, when you need cash, present yourself in such a way that you don't look like you need? I mean, imagine you're like, if I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need $50,000. No. Right? But do you think about what do you look like when you go to a bank? They're like, okay, fill out this paperwork, right? They just process you and then, oh, you're declined, right? But if you're like, well, here's my business model, I'm doing this, you're just showing them your business and the legitimacy of your business and where you're making money and your prospects for future business and future business growth. And then they're like, well, that's great. Then they say, well, did you know we have several programs that you might be interested in? Right? So I didn't go and ask you for money. I was telling you about my business and just wondering, just talking kind of casually to the bank, and then all of a sudden the bank starts throwing all this money at me. Well, have you considered this corporate credit card, or we have this special money market account for you, or yada, yada, yada. They got all these things like, huh. Right? So keep that in mind. Right? That's probably worth the price of admission today. Right? Think about how you present yourself when you go and you're trying to get money. Think about people that come to you. Do you want to give money to somebody that's asking you for money? Right? Would you rather give money to somebody that come to you and like, I really need to borrow some money from you? Or would you want to, you know some people in your life and you're like, that gal or that guy's a mover and a shaker. I'd love to invest in what they're doing and get a piece of that action. Right? That's the same way banks think. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay. So, the entrepreneur's playbook for building business credit. What if, all right, just throwing this out there, what if you could set up your business where it's fundable by meeting the lender's approval criteria before you applied? What if you knew how to set your business up so that you're already approved before you've even filled out an application? Would that be useful? What if you could get business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your SSN and then become even more lendable than you are off of just your SSN? We're talking EIN, SSN, and we'll get to that. We'll get what those are. But if my business owners, you know what that's at. Right? What if you could know where to look for capital and find all your funding options in just one place instead of having to shop around? What if you, because you know what your business is, you know where you're going with your business, and so I don't need to look at hundreds and hundreds of different lending options or credit cards. I know exactly what I want to do. I know the products that I need to get to where I'm going. So I can now narrow down the fact that all I need are these lending options at this source. So let me just groom my entire business to meet those lending requirements. And these people will just take me to the promised land. Would that be useful?
Yes.
All right. Takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, for sure. So, the entrepreneur's playbook. We've been building on this analogy, but you really do have to know your opponent. Who's your opponent? And getting business credit and getting access to this capital. What's the force that's stopping you? Or that's in your way? What? Competition? No. Yes. The gatekeeper. Who's preventing you from having access to liquidity? Well, I mean, we say it's the bank. There's a specific computer algorithm that's at the bank, and it's the gatekeeper. Like here, pretend there's this huge stash, huge pile of millions of dollars, and there's this computer algorithm, like, that's just looking. Your application comes in and like, No, right? But you need access to that cash. You got to get past that computer gatekeeper. Man, how do we do that? Lenders and credit issuers have a secret, unpublished set of standards that you must meet in order to get their approval, right? Because they don't want to lend to that percentage, that 50 to 70% of businesses that'll fail. So they have figured out, well, all these businesses that succeed have all of these different criteria. So they're secretively looking for those businesses without telling you what it is. Go ahead and apply to me, and then I'll look. Okay, you match with what I'm willing to accept as my tolerable risk threshold. Now, if I told you the way to get access to the $1,000 in my pocket is to tell me that you love the color green, and then I put on the application, what's your favorite color?
Green.
You're all going to say green, and then, well, so I don't want to tell you but I want to work with people who really do have their favorite color is green, right? And so I hear purple and green and yellow, blue, and so in the whole room I feel, okay, there's these three people that I want to work with. That's how the bank works with their application. You think you're filling all this stuff out, and they're weeding out their undesirables to figure out who they want to actually work with. Well, what if you could find a place where all of those little secrets were written out and you knew exactly what the lenders were looking for? Would that be worth it to you?
Yes.
That's what we're going to cover today. How fundable your business is determines if you get automatic approvals or you get denied. Automatic approvals. You guys don't even understand how cool automatic approvals are, because when you fill out an online application and you instantly get back an email that says congratulations, you've been approved, and then 24 hours later you have credit cards or you have to fill out some DocuSign stuff if it's a line of credit or loan. But let's just say it's a credit card. Wouldn't it be great to apply for a corporate credit card with a limit of 10, 15, 25,000 and get that inside of a week sent to you? And you didn't have to talk to anybody. You just knew the underwriting guidelines. You set your business up the right way. You filled out the application, and then this money just starts coming in. That's what we've been talking about. I haven't even trained you on anything because I needed to get you guys in the right mindset so that you understand what business credit is, how to get it. And guys, it's hard to get business credit because nobody knows how to do it. They don't know. Imagine if you came in that door, see there's a door in the back? You came in that door and there's a pile of cash here, right? The room is pitch black dark. And if you touch one thing other than the money, you don't get it. You'd be like, bam, you hit something and you're like, oh man, I don't get the money. Bam, I hit something, But turning the lights on, that's business credit, right? That's what we're going to show you today. We're going to show you, I got to step around this. I got to come this way. Then I got to come back a little bit over here, step around that big guy in the front, and then you can get access to it. That's what we're showing you today. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to better help us understand the world of business credit and all of the underwriting guidelines, how to set your business up legitimately is my business partner, Mr. Ray Fleming. I'll tell you about this guy, because a lot of you are new faces here, you don't know about him, but he has started a lot of businesses. And when I say a lot of businesses, I can't count them all on just my fingers. I have to take my shoes off and use my toes as well to continue to count. He has started eBay businesses. He's had a kettle corn business. He's had a landscaping business, handyman business. He's had wholesaling businesses of real estate. He's fix and flip properties. He's had rental properties. He has a new business now of nightly rentals, vacation rental properties. So this guy started a lot of business. We call him back home the property guy. See, because a lot of people, they got an idea, they got a property, or they got a problem with a property, and then he goes in and looks at it, and he shows you where the profit is. Oh, there's some equity here, if we did some work here. And so the guy you give him a property, and he looks at it like a Rubik's Cube. He just sits there, he's like, okay, here's how we make money with this deal. Next. Just every house is a different Rubik's Cube for him. But here's the point. The guy has started so many businesses, and he hasn't been successful at all of them, mind you, but he's done enough to know how to do it right. In fact, over the last year, I'll tell you this, he has helped over 100 folks, just like you, sitting in this room, start and grow businesses, and people who already have established businesses build business credit. And here's his success record. He helps people build $50,000 in lines of credit for their business in 6 to 12 months. And that's being conservative, because I think his real number is somewhere around 67,000 is what he's been getting on average for folks. So do you think you could learn a little bit from this guy?
Yeah.
Please welcome to the front of the room my business partner, Mr. Ray Clemens.
All right, thank you, Joseph.
Absolutely.
Perfect. That's why I like working with the guy. See, it's really good because he's considered the money guy. He's really good at getting the money, and so me, I like to spend money. So he gets the money, and then I go spend it on the properties. It's a great relationship. You need to find yourself a money guy. Okay, so yes,
Actually, we don't borrow money, we invest money.
yes. Bring partner. Man, I look a lot younger there for sure. Oh, there's music. All right, now we gotta dance like this.
Okay, everybody stand up and dance. Check it out. Come on. Yeah, keep the blood pumping.
Yes. It's a good song. Okay, so let's see here. This is, okay, so these are some of the deals. Who wants to do real estate? And who's wants to do it but they haven't done it yet? Okay, perfect. And is money the issue?
Yes. Big issue.
Probably, yeah, it's a combination. For me, money was the issue. I didn't know how to find them, didn't know how to do it, didn't know how to structure it. So it's the lack of knowledge. And the knowledge really was the lack of finding the money too. So these are some of the deals that we've been working on. These two are the ones that, when I first met a group like this, it was 3.5 years ago, and this is the house that we were, potentially going to lose because I had this horrible knee injury, and I couldn't work. So that was a problem. He makes it sound really nice and beautiful, but it wasn't always that way. I've had some really rough patches in my life, been in some rough situations, landed myself in jail a couple times, and I was kind of one of these lost causes, barely past high school. And it was one of these things when I was at these really low points in my life, sitting at a bus stop, just wondering how I even ended up here, because I was blessed with all the benefits of the world, but I didn't take advantage of them. And so it was one of these things, am I going to be a drain on society, or am I actually going to be a contributor to society? And it was at that point that I really had to make a change. And it was simply the people I was hanging around with. So today, it's Saturday. Yeah, you guys chose to come down to an office and learn about business. Learn about business credit. You're doing exactly what I was doing. Because then I'm not going to go out and party on Saturday and drink all day long. I'm going to go show up at some office and start learning about real estate. And then, really did I know, in a very short period of time, it all started to come together. Because it was hard to become successful. It's hard, would you agree?
Yeah,
It takes a lot of work.
it does.
Is it hard being broke?
Yeah.
It is. It is hard regardless. Whether we are struggling and not being able to do it, or it's just hard in a different way. So it's gonna be hard regardless, your choice. And that's what I had to figure out. So now, luckily, well actually I shouldn't say luckily, through persistence, we were about to lose this 3.5 years ago. My wife Jane is right there. This house behind it is literally next door. We just bought that 2 weeks ago, and this is now the third house on our street that we actually purchased. So it's pretty crazy what can happen in a short period of time. And still to date, only using $10 of my own money. That's what's powerful. Yeah, and I own most of it. At least 50% of everything, which is pretty powerful. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is business credit. And the only way to really get you to understand is associated with what you already know. What is SSN?
Social Security number.
And EIN.
Employment identification.
Yes, employer identification number. So it works as a tax ID for your business. Okay? What is the perfect score for your personal credit? 850. Yes, there's some other scoring models, depends on what you're applying for, but most scoring models it's 850. You know, there's some that are at 900, but 850 is the most common. Now, what about your business? What is?
100.
IDEX 100.
Yeah, some of you know, some of you not sure. We're going to learn that today. Okay, let's go back to personal credit. On your personal side, who reports? So if you wanted to check your credit score for your personal side, who would you go to? The big bureaus. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Yeah, there you go. So there's hundreds of them, but those are the big three. Now, let's go over to business. Who reports business or credit? The big three bureaus.
Dun and Bradstreet?
Hmm.
Is that one?
Possibly. So that's one of those things that we're going to dive in today. Who actually is reporting? What affects your credit score? So on your business, or actually we're going to talk about your personal side first. What could make your personal score go up or down? Payments. Payment history is the biggest one. 35% of your profile basically comes from payment history. That's huge. Miss a payment, boom, your score is going to be destroyed.
Yep.
What's next?
New credit.
History?
Did somebody say it? I thought I heard it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yep, utilization. Who does not know what utilization is? That's okay if you don't. Okay, so utilization, imagine this is our credit card, and we have a $1,000 limit on our credit card. If we're using all $1,000 of it and we're carrying that balance over, we're at 100% of it being used, or the utilization is 100%. 50% would be at a $500 balance, and so forth. Really, anything over 50% really negatively affects your score. Ideally, you want to stay under 30% of your credit cards actually being carried over in a balance. Even that's still affecting it in a negative way, but it can still grow. Does that make sense? Which is something that we don't really understand. On your personal side, you're really not supposed to carry huge balances over each month because 30% of your score is affected that way. Then we also have inquiries. So are we looking for new credit, or are we having some hard pulls of our credit? What else? What else affects?
Time.
Number of lines of credit.
Yeah, it's along those lines. The last two, mix of accounts and the age of accounts. So do they want to see a bunch of brand new accounts?
No.
No, they want to see that you've had some credit cards for 10 years. Because then they can see if you've been able to properly manage it. And also the mix of accounts. So there's actually an ideal mix. It's 1 car loan, 1 mortgage, 3 credit cards. That's perfect usage. Anything else starts to kind of offset it a little bit, but that's only about 10% of your profile. But there is actually a perfect little mix. So now let's take a look at your business side. What affects your business score? Is it all 5 equally? Other things?
Cash flow.
So we're going to talk about that today, what actually affects it. Now, so when we're talking about your personal, let's go back to personal. When you're talking about that, you gotta, did everybody kind of see where they're at in their head with their personal score? You have a 3-digit number. Hopefully it's a 3-digit number. Let's talk afterwards if we're, but see, the great thing is the way that we do business credit doesn't matter. But how long from where you are today would it take for you to get to an 850 or even 800 if you're not there? So if you're like my buddy in the back, 2 foreclosures and bankruptcy,
Hey,
we don't pick on him. All right, it could take forever. Even when it gets good enough to actually use, we end up using it. But what about the business? he already kind of told you a little bit about how quickly it can be done on your business. But we'll dive more into that today for sure. Now, before we get started, do need to give you a little, I'll just read this to you real quick. Okay. I'm not licensed attorney, account, financial advisor, broker, licensed individually, not licensed. I'm not going to capacity, will not discuss my rights. Instructed specific individuals, even presentations, general information only once again. So I recommend and encourage engage certain professionals making decisions, have a legal impact, especially financial decisions. Okay, so
Why is God in
yeah, so I just was trying to get that real quick. What does this mean though? Why do we put things like this up? Yeah, it's for protection. Business is all about protection. The reason we create businesses is for protection, separation from ourselves, but it's also you have to do your due diligence. We also want you to make sure that what we're doing today is general in scope, and so each situation is unique, just like real estate. So we encourage you to, anybody that does attend one of these events, we do like a 30-minute free consultation with them if they just have some questions, because we drop a lot on you, and that's really what is going to take place. But we have financial advisors, loan officers on our team, and it depends on what your situation is and what kind of professionals you actually need. Make sense? All right, so Joseph was talking about football. Football goes along perfectly with polar bears, and that's what we're talking about next is polar bears. What is the polar bear doing now? Yeah. It's up for interpretation, but he could be looking at himself. This is a good looking group. So I would take a bet. Anybody want to bet me $100? I bet $100.
That's Vegas.
I bet $100 that every single person in this room looked in the mirror today.
Yeah.
Anybody want to go against that? No, we would not go against that. Why not? Because it's just, it's like make sure there's no spaghetti on our face or whatever. We are always making sure that we understand what we're putting out there to the world, because we don't want to show up looking funky or looking bad. Now, so what's the other thing of that? Why did we create separate businesses? To create separation for legal purposes, tax advantages, but your body's an entity. We create separate legal entities, and what we do is we pay attention to what this entity looks like, but we do not pay attention to what our business looks like. It's a cold, not cold, but it's a hard realization that we have businesses out there that run around butt naked with spaghetti all over themselves. Every single business in here, I guarantee you, is missing some clothes because we don't pay attention to it like we pay attention to ourselves. I had business that had my name misspelled on the documents with the state, and I could never find it on their website for 3 years. I just didn't even notice it, didn't pay attention. That was creating issues. Yeah. It wasn't even me that messed up. It was however the data got entered in, but I did not go back to review anything. And that was creating confusion across the board. And when I was applying for things, denials across the board because that name does not line up. He was talking about character issues in the back. We'll dive into that more. Most of the time it's not on purpose. There is a level of fraudulent or deceitful applications that come through on a daily basis to financial lenders or businesses or to apply for credit accounts. Anybody want to take a guess on the amount of fraudulent or deceitful applications that they receive daily? What percentage of those?
200%.
200%. Yeah, 50 to 80% are. And a lot of it is, there are a few bad apples out there that are trying to take advantage, but most of it is we just don't know. We are saying one thing, but we haven't verified that what we are telling them that we think is correct is actually correct. We know what it should have been. We set up our business. Yes, our information, this is our information. But I guarantee you most of us did not go back to actually make sure that with the state, with the IRS, they had that information correct. And that's where the problems start to happen. Okay, so this is my little lady. She is much bigger now, but this was when we were traveling down to Mexico. You can see my mom there. think is, oh, that's in my other, she's right between two grandmas actually. This pillow though is what's really important. Who has a child? Or more than one child? Okay. Or when you were a child, did you have something that you really loved? She really loves these pillows. And so this is, you know, she's getting older now. She just turned 7. She still has this pillow because, and we've tried to replace it, and it has these tiger stripes because it's been stretched out, and that thing is just so dirty and nasty, but I can't, you know, it's like the meltdown of the world that it's gone. These are lenders. Lenders are scared little creatures. We think of them as big, powerful giants, but they are actually very scared. They only like to work with, like Joseph said, that they only like what's comfortable to them. And so what happens is we try to show up with, you know, different colored pillows, things that don't even look like pillows to these lenders, and they know, I mean, she can hear that pillow cry in a crowd. She knows what is her pillow. And so lenders are the exact same way. If they don't feel right off the bat, they have that sense, and that's through what we're going to talk about today, then you're going to get denied across the board because they know if you're trying to pull one by them. All right, the very first thing. So if you've had a child or your parents, they spend time thinking about your name. Are there bad human names? Okay, what's a bad human name? I mean,
Adolf.
or just straight Hitler. Anybody want to name their child Hitler?
No.
Okay, I think you might be in the wrong room. We just don't see eye to eye. Okay, so how many? We know what we would not name a child or a dog because we deal with names. But what about a business? There's businesses out there that we don't really realize what are bad names because we deal with people names every day. We don't deal with business names. And these are one of those first things that we get wrong a lot of times. Now, I'm not saying that this is wrong, but let's take a look at like a human name. Ben. Is there any Bens in the room? Okay. Who knows a Ben? Is that a bad name?
No.
Does it create confusion?
No.
No. But what happens if your last name is Dover? So does that create confusion? And it looks like he's like a real estate agent of some sort. So, you know, because he got tired of his bosses saying bend over. So, see, that creates confusion there. You know, that could borderline on harassment. It's one of those things.
Sorry.
It's okay. We won't ask. Then, you know, see, that's the thing is if I start saying it, then it becomes weird. I'm like, why are you telling her to bend over? That's just weird. Real estate. Is that a bad name?
No.
Does it create confusion?
No.
It does a little bit. What is real estate? Real estate's a big world. Big world.
Are you a broker?
So,
Agent, or
having real estate in our business name creates a little bit of confusion. Even though we want to do real estate, like, yeah, makes sense. But lenders are a little confused by that. Like, what is it exactly in real estate you're doing? Because some areas of real estate are extremely high risk. So, I'm not sure if we should be lending to something that is such a high risk. The word, well, one of my first things, I'm like, I'm going to be a real estate investor. Okay, what are we going to do? Maybe my name, the word, investments. That sounds good, because that's what we're doing, right? That creates a little confusion. Now, if you have this in your business name, it doesn't mean you have to go out and change it tomorrow, okay? We can kind of, as we're going through these steps, you may find your business is weak in a certain area. Doesn't mean it has to be fully changed, it just means we can build up the credibility in other areas. So your business name, if it has real estate, if it has investments, it has something that's portraying a high-risk industry, doesn't mean you have to go change it tomorrow. Let's just make sure everything else is lined up perfectly. As Joseph likes to say, make sure all your ducks are in a line. He gets on my case sometimes because I'll say, make sure all your ducks are in a line. And he's like, no, Ray, it's ducks in a row. I'm like, whatever. I just like to mix them up, all my metaphors all the time. It keeps exciting. So investments, the confusion on that, it could be a brokerage. It could be some other type of financial house. There's a lot of regulations when certain financial institutions are lending to other financial institutions. So they, in their system, may just trigger that by the name only, and to not even deal with it, it'll just be a denial, and they'll say lack of time in business or some generic response. They aren't going to say your name is the issue. It just tripped the system. Because all of those fraudulent applications, they spend a significant amount of money preventing those getting through. So something shows up, let's just get out and not even deal with it. We don't need to deal with it. You need me, the bank, more than I need you. That's really the way they feel. Now, let's figure out a good business name. You know what? Let's go back there real quick. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to dive into what some good business names are after lunch. All right, business address. We got to figure out where your business is going to be located. So we get our business name, and now we got to figure out a business address. What we are doing right now, and what I'm showing you is I'm going to show you the 10 things that really you got to figure out where you're at and make sure that these are all lined up before you even move on to the next step. And the first thing and the biggest thing is making sure your business is set up right. Making sure you have a good business name. Making sure you have a good business address. Where's a good business address? Physical. Yes, it does have to be a physical place, for sure. I chose my home. That's really where the first place is because I was starting up. What do? I received mail here at the house. Perfect. Let's put it at my house. But then I moved into a landscaping business and that had equipment. I'm like, well, I don't want people coming here. I don't have a garage. I have a carport. If I'm putting online my home address, now somebody can come by my house and I'm not going to show my home address. This is kind of weird. I don't have money for an office. Office is ideal. Many of us, so this costs money to have an office, have locations, to have warehouses. It costs money to do all that. We spend a lot of money on our offices. It's pretty wild, 2 mortgages basically. So if you can't afford an office right off the bat, what do? Anybody have any other solutions? Besides your house or your office, where could you go?
P.O. box. Some people do P.O. boxes.
P.O. box. There is a P.O. box, but
Virtual office.
we don't want to do P.O. box, yes.
The UPS gives you an actual address.
It does. There's a problem with that. Because when I first started, I went online. And there was this site that I used to use a lot. There's a lot of really quality information on there, but there's also really a lot of bad information on there. And it was like these dudes, and they got big pockets. I don't know if anybody's ever spent any time there, but I went on there and I was like, okay, where do I put my business address? And somebody said UPS store. I was like, perfect. So then I did that, and then when it came along, they're like, well, where's your actual business located? Because that's a UPS store. I'm like, well, they're like, we have Google. we know what is an office and what is not. And that's the reason I chose it, because it looks like a street address and not a P.O. box. Yes?
Shared office, where you pay for a desk or whatever,
Executive offices, co-working spaces, virtual offices, so places that offer mail service. There are some out there that cost the same as a UPS store. Mm-hmm. And so I spent, 2 years, I paid for 2 years up front at the UPS store on one of my businesses. Now, I still have a P.O. box. I have a P.O. box for mailing. I have a business P.O. box that receives mail. That's important. But on the physical addresses, I now use virtual offices on a lot of them for the ones that we don't have offices for. Because some of our businesses are owned by other businesses. So we have, our main rental company, and then it owns sub-LLCs, and each sub-LLC owns its own property. That way, each rental can have its own credit cards. Pretty exciting, right? Especially the way that we raise capital through self-directed retirement funds on actual purchasing a lot of these. You can't have anybody personally liable. So how do you do that? If you can't personally guarantee any of the debt, how do you get access to lines of credit? The yes, the only way is business credit. Or you could choose somebody else's house, like I did. I didn't want them to come by my house. I wasn't gonna put my house online, but I was like, I'll put my mom's house. You know, she has a garage, she doesn't have anything, it's a house, you know? But then see, what happened was, I had my little landscaping business, and I'm coming by Saturday morning, and there's this guy. And so I pulled to my mom's. She only lives about a mile away. And there's this guy, and he was like kind of he was like around the side of her house. I'm like, what the heck? So I'm running out, grab my shovel. I'm like, there's like some dude, and my mom's single, you know, because of mismanaged credit. My whole, you know, my parents, you know, that destroyed our family because of mismanaged credit, which I'm so grateful I found this group because it showed me how to manage my credit. And then so I'm like, who's this guy? Like, I don't know if he's trying to, like, it's Saturday morning, and then he was over there pulling weeds. Like, all right, it's kind of weird. And then I go, and I'm still in my getup, and I'm like, Mom, I could have pulled your weeds. Anybody know a mechanic who doesn't take care of their car? Yeah. I was that landscaper who didn't pull my own weeds or my mom's. She's like, well, I know you're busy, and I didn't want to bug you. And this guy showed up looking for work. I was like, oh, looking for work. She's like, yeah, you mentioned your business, and he was like here to see if he could apply for a job. Oh, maybe he found us online. That's kind of what he like Googled for, like, you know, landscaping companies. And then she said she had a couple bucks, so she paid him to do the weeds. I was like, oh, well, I guess that worked out okay. I don't know. They went in a partnership, put me out of business. So what happens though, too, there's another problem with this. When we started our house and then we start to progress, we're like, okay, now we found out about our UPS store. And then so we went that path. Or then we got a virtual office and then we moved down that path. And then we've had some massive success. Now we're getting an office. The big problem is we don't change the addresses with everybody along the way. Maybe we corrected with the state, but we didn't correct it with the IRS. Maybe we have we still have our UPS store with IRS, and now we have a virtual office. And our bank still has this one. And so that's what we're talking about, is one of these things is even getting the right address and then going back and making sure everybody across the board is changed with that right address. That's a hard part.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah.
Because I have a UPS mailbox. And so I decided I was gonna, because it's costing me money in my business, I'm putting out more money than was coming in. So I tried to change my business address from the UPS to my home address by filling out the form for address change, and it wouldn't work. I had, it told me to contact so-and-so. So I didn't understand how to change it, so I just went back to UPS and got the same mailbox. But I have to figure out, because I have a business, there is a form that I need to fill out in order to change it from the UPS to maybe a virtual office. It's just not that simple just to change it.
Change it with the state or?
Just change it, period. Because when I put in the address change for the business, only part of it came up.
Through the postal service?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. At lunch, I'll touch base with you on that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. So, yeah, there's these little issues that come up. It's like,
like,
what am I
now
even
what do
doing?
I do?
Like, you know, I'm trying to, I mean, that might be like a mail forwarding situation and trying to do it that way. The great thing is, it's not just one place. We have to actually go to 6 places to change it all over the place. And so it's not as easy as just going and changing that, and that's why you're having issues. Is it's not as easy as our personal way.
Right.
So it kind of trips things up a little bit, and I think that's probably what you're having that issue with, and we can talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Okay. So next, after we figure out this, or we figure out, hey, we know where we're at, but we got to move towards this, or look over into an executive type suite location where you can rent out little spaces, or just have a mail service. Oh, whoa. I gotta go back real quick. One thing, you know what? I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna tell you guys that in a minute. So after lunch, I'm gonna do a quick little review, and I'm gonna make sure I hit some of these points. Like, one of the exciting things about virtual office is how you do the virtual office. There's an important aspect about virtual office that prevents you from being thrown into the same bag with every other business. Because if somebody else screws up and you're at the same address, that can create issues. All right, but we'll touch base on a little bit more in virtual offices after lunch. All right, so business entities. Now that we have figured out what we're going to name our business, we figured out, let's see, we figured out business names, we figured out where our business is going to be. Now we're going to figure out what type of business. So I started my business as a sole proprietor. I went down and I did a DBA, doing business as, but my name. The problem is with that I'm not actually creating any separation from myself. Sole proprietorships, joint ventures, actually limited partnerships. There's certain types of business entities where somebody's always going to have to be on the hook. To truly separate yourself, you got to create some type of legal separation through a LLC, an S corp, a C corp. It could be a nonprofit type situation, a 506c. I mean, there's a lot of different types of structures, but you actually have to create some type of legal structure there to create that separation. Now, once you actually create that separation, then that's when you can truly start building business credit. Lots of our businesses, like I said, sole proprietorships, we're more treating it like a hobby. I was treating it like a hobby. Anybody ever build little models? Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to run around my neighborhood and do these little jobs and make some money doing weeding and stuff like that to actually fuel my hobby. Anybody ever feel like sometimes your business turns into a hobby and you're just making money to fuel the hobby? You're like, oh, I really liked this, I really enjoyed, lotions. So now we're just trying to fuel this hobby of a business. That's what happens. And the lenders understand that most businesses turn into hobbies. Statistically, most home-based businesses end up costing money and not actually become profitable. That's why they don't necessarily like your home address. They will give you a little bit of money, but not a lot. That's the statistics. They're going on risk. Remember, they know most people are not going to become profitable. Most businesses are going to fail, so they're looking for those diamond in the rough that they can really bet big on. Now, here we are. So, living trusts, sole proprietorships, partnerships. Living trusts, they do have tax ID numbers. We're in the process of building credit on a living trust, this is kind of new territory for us, is actually building it for a trust. That's pretty crazy. So these are, because somebody still has to be personally on there, but all these other entities and other types of variations of those can build business credit. All right, so we have our address, we have our phone, or no. Now we got to deal with our phone. Anybody putting their cell phone numbers on their applications?
Yes.
This is one of those things that I was doing. And then I did not know that was an issue. I have my phone. Why not use it? I'm not going to pay for another phone. And then they're like, well, no, we don't like your cell phone. Okay, well, I went to Google, and Google gave me a free number. Anybody ever use a Google Voice number? Yes. I love Google Voice numbers because I put these little signs on the road, and I mark it that way. I'm like, we buy houses. And it's great because I can get all sorts of different numbers from Google and I can track different locations. But there's also, what I've heard some people use this for, is there's the sign police and they can fine you. And so, I haven't been fined or anything like that, but what I heard was Google Voice helps you. They can't fine you if they can't find you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was one of these things. I was like, okay, I keep a little separation. I can hide myself. Why also don't lenders like Google Voice numbers?
Because they can't.
Because you can hide yourself. They're free. What you're going to learn is that any free service, lenders don't like. Because think about all the people out there who are trying to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
They're using all the free services. They're going to put all the free services together because they don't want to spend any money on their business. So lenders want to see that you're actually spending money on your business. So a business phone number is very important. There's no payphones still around, is there?
In the library.
In the library.
Yes.
So very rare.
It's off the counter.
Oh, there you go. But they used to be everywhere before everybody has cell phone numbers. I mean, and cell phones, you know, there's phones everywhere. That's so weird. We're always attached to a phone in some way, shape, or form. What about phone books? They still hand those out?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, whose business, have you looked your business up in the phone book? Like, what? Is that still a thing? That's why landscaping businesses put like AAA landscaping, AAA plumbing, so they were the first in the book when somebody's like, oh, I got a leak. Oh, here, this one looks good. It's the top of the list. Doesn't matter anymore because we have Yelp, we have Google. It doesn't matter. We don't need to put those little alphabetical things in place. What about the National 411 Directory?
No.
Back on, who remembers back when everybody had home phones? Anybody ever dial 411?
Yes.
What happened when you dialed 411?
They give you the phone number that you need.
Yeah.
It was information.
Yeah. And it cost a little bit of money. It was like 75 cents.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy to get out the phone book, so I'm going to call 411, find out the pizza place, and then my mom's going to yell at me a month later when she gets the bill. I spent $1 trying to find pizza. Have you guys checked the 411 directory for your business? Lenders, remember, they're trying to be taken advantage of. They love these old systems. They love the 411 National Directory. That is still a thing because it was one of these organic systems that as you're in business, you're going to start to get things from the yellow pages and they're going to have opportunities after you're in business to get into that directory. That's what usually takes place. So if your business is credible and it's been doing business for a while, you would be in that national directory. So you need to check that national directory, and if you're not there, then you need to be there. What is going on here? Oh, that's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing somebody's talking on the speaker, and it sounds like me.
Just turn it on.
You guys are like, what's wrong with Ray? He keeps looking over here. I don't know how to turn it on.
On the back, there's a switch.
Ah, there we go.
It says off, go left out.
I thought I was having a stroke. Like I'm hearing something. Okay, so there are services out there where you can get listed into the 411, and those prices range all over I've seen, the most expensive one I've seen is $360.
Ooh.
But you don't have to pay that. We'll talk to you a little bit at the end and how we will just throw you out there. No additional cost. All right, so we got to make sure we're in the phone book. We got to check the National 411 listing. Now, if you just dial 411 from your cell phone, you're going to get Verizon's, you're going to get T-Mobile's. So this still actually has to be done from a landline to check it. Sir, please silence your phone. Or we will escort you from the building. No, I'm just joking. Okay, Google Voice numbers, this is what we're looking like. You know, when we're using our personal cell phone numbers. They figure that we are unestablished. Because does Walmart use personal cell phone numbers? Do they use Google Voice numbers? There's services out there where you can get what is called a VoIP, a Voice over Internet Protocol number. You know, it's a phone number that works just like Google Voice that you pay for, but it's registered to your business. You can have a fancy answering machine, you could have an answering service, you could have all sorts of different departments, and they all go to your cell phone. Or they just go to voicemails and you can check them later. They transcribe them to emails. You can usually get also an 800 number along with that. Now you do need a local number for the listing, but you can also have an 800 number too. We needed 800 numbers for payphones. Nobody really needs an 800 number anymore. Everybody pretty much has long distance now because I guarantee you in this room, we have 5 different area codes on our phone numbers. So it would be nonsense. It'd be crazy if we were all having to pay long distance to just, you know, I'm calling, what's the first 3 digits of your phone number?
702.
So so you got a Las Vegas number, and then I'm 520. We're right here, and if I were to call you and pay long distance, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Would it?
Fine.
Yeah,
813.
813. Anybody else different from those?
414.
414,
805.
805. There we go. It'd just be nuts. So we have to actually get a local number to get into the listing. $10 a month, and I always say, usually you can add on an 800 number for no extra charge. Because does Walmart have 800 numbers? Is there 800 numbers on the back of your credit cards?
Yes.
Every legitimate business has an 800 number, and you should too. It's one of these just, when you get a business card and somebody has this number, they got a fax number, they got an 800 number, you're like, dang, they're like,
Where do
they're
you buy-
legit.
where do you buy a fax? Because it's like, I mean, I use faxes because sending in paperwork to like, insurance companies and stuff, clients and policies.
Applications and things?
Yeah, but it's like, somebody was like that the other day, it's like fax numbers. Where do you even get a fax machine anymore?
Now, are you actually using a fax machine,
It's a,
or you email to fax type conversion?
yeah.
So yeah, there's things like smooth fax and things where it's email to fax type conversion. So it's like you send an email and it goes out like a fax, and I guarantee you the guys on the other side are receiving it as a fax, but it's converted to an email. It's why? Because it's outdated system and lenders love it. They want to see a lot of times that on these accounts, as we show you how like you're gonna have to set up accounts, they want to see faxed in applications because an online application doesn't let you get around certain parameters. Like they'll want your social. You can't get around that. You'd have to actually send in a paper application. We'll talk about that too.
So excuse me, so are you saying that we need a fax number?
Not necessarily, but it does help.
Okay.
Now, you do, okay, so when I say not necessarily, not like an actual fax machine, you do need access to a fax number for your business. So let me clarify that. Yes. Yes, you do.
Like an e-fax type deal.
Yeah, it can be like an e-fax system. And I'll show you some things later that can get you that. And we have a lot of systems in place that it's that type of thing, email to fax type situation. So yeah, all these little numbers, you want to get these little numbers lined up, and those will be huge credibility for your business, and they are registered to your business, not your personal self. All right. So, business email. Of course, one of my businesses, Northwest Yard and Handyman Service at gmail.com. I'm starting up. I don't have money for email. Why not use it? Because, and now when I see business cards, and now once I've branded your mind now. Now when you see Gmail at the end of it, you're like, ah. So let's talk about email. Let's say you met Joseph Smith and he's a banker. Call him the money guy, right? And he works at Bank of America. He sends you some wiring instructions, and this is the email that it comes from. Anybody? Yeah, it starts to, you're going to question that, right?
Right.
Would Bank of America use Gmail accounts? They wouldn't. Okay, let's flip it around a little bit. You're still going to verify the information, but you start to feel more sense of security there. Wire fraud is a big problem, especially if you're dealing in real estate. Happens all the time. Title companies are getting hacked. They're sending wire instructions, and it'll have exactly like this. It'll have, the escrow officer's name, maybe the title company, and then it'll have some little thing at the end. And bank wiring fraud, especially through title companies, is huge. If you're buying a property, and any realtors in the room? Verify. Verify. And I'm sure you know about wire fraud and how it's a big problem.
I tell my clients like 5 times, when you get the wiring instructions, call them and verify it.
And what happens is, a lot of times they will send it to the realtor, and the realtor will send it to
They
the
don't do that
homeowner.
anymore.
Oh, beautiful. So it's like they're realizing that was like, problems,
Yeah,
and so.
we can't even get a copy.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect.
That is, it solves the problem.
Because we're off the hook.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And we have to have.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the errors and omissions, but let's not use it.
And we have to have them sign a wire fraud notification form.
It's all these little things, and it's still, you gotta be cautious. And what's messed up is, I just got through a class with Fidelity National Title. We use Fidelity. We get some really good rates with Fidelity. As they were showing us some of these examples, they have numbers that they're shutting down on a daily basis, and you call this number, and they answer, "Oh, hi, this is Samantha." Like, acting as an escrow officer, and it's somebody in a foreign country. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So be careful, because once you send that, it's gone. And there's people that lose millions and millions of dollars a year. All right, so email is super important. Get your domain for your business, whatever your business is. Now, you don't need your website set up yet, but if you're going to have a website, make sure all your information is correct. Make sure you have your address on there. Make sure your phone number's on there. Make sure that all matches, so if somebody verifies it, it's right. See, me, when I had my home address, I didn't want to put that out there because I was hiding from people. I didn't want people showing up to my house. But what did that look like to the lenders? That I'm trying to hide from them. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Geraldine.
Geraldine. So Geraldine, let's say we just met out on the street, and I'm asking you for $100. I'm like, hey, I'll pay you back in 30 days. You don't know me though. What's your level of confidence that I'm going to pay you back?
0.
Right. So then, let's say that you've been hanging around this group, and I borrowed $100 from everybody in this room, and they all will vouch and say that I paid them back plus interest. What about now? Can I borrow $100?
100%.
Perfect. All right, we got $100. Let's do it. But just the thought of knowing that somebody else has used it with success. Anybody ever buy anything from Amazon?
Yes.
And who has bought stuff and not looked at the reviews? We buy on reviews. Our online it's everything. And that's what credit is. Credit, if we want money, we have to have these relationships built. That's truly what it is. And so as we're going through and building our relationships, we want to make sure that everything we're putting out there is legit. So get the domain. You don't have to set the website like I said. That's not something you have to do right now. You'll want to eventually have, a professional website. Yes?
Question. You mentioned getting a domain. I heard that if you get a domain and it's just for 1 year, that people that are interested in you as far as lending you money think that you're not legit when your domain is only for 1 year. Is it better to get your domain for like 3 years versus 1 year?
So for me personally, I haven't ever really experienced or seen a trend like that. What I have noticed, the reason I go for 3 years is because I can guarantee the pricing. Usually I can get into it as an introductory rate. So I can get in for $3 a year sometimes, depending on where the site I go through. Email on top of that costs money, but I could lock it up for 3 years for $25 or something like that. That's one of the main reasons I'm going to do it, is because I'm going to save money over the time.
Okay.
And then, so something like that too, that can come into effect when that's one of the only factors that they have to look at. When you're missing all these other things, then they're going to start paying attention to what do you have and how serious is that, and that's where something like that's going to come up. But when we start to put all these things in place, they're not going to go that deep. They're going to say, hey, all these things on top are lining up. You're hitting that mark. Great question. All right, so next, business license. Who is required to have a business license in here?
Business.
Every business?
Yeah.
Except for home-based businesses that are under a certain amount. So that's what's beautiful, is every single state's different. Where I come from in Arizona, we don't have to have a business license just to have a business. But it depends on which county you're in. It depends on if you're in the city limits. You may need to go pay a $15, office occupancy licensing. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they raise money through different types of licensing. So this is a problem. If you are required to have a license and you do not, that could create a denial. Also, what we're talking about is going back and making sure things are verified and corrected along the way. You started your business at home. Now you have a virtual office. Did you change your business license address to match everything else? That's another problem. So we have to go through these things and really make sure that everything is lined up. So having expired licenses, the address not being up to date, and simply just not even having it. These all create issues. Business bank account. That's a big one. So you have to have a business bank account. Absolutely. There's banks out there that you can get a free business bank account. So check around, ask around. There's a lot of other business owners in here. So if somebody's working with a banker in your local market that they really like, smaller credit unions, develop relationships. I always encourage you to, when you have multiple businesses, have relationships with different banks, because the big guys cannot do as much sometimes as the little guys. The little local banks, the credit unions, they're going to be a little bit more flexible from our experience versus, I'm not going to name any names, but they usually have the biggest buildings in downtown. It's because they have set parameters and you can't get around that.
Okay, as far as business bank account, should you have your personal account in the same bank as your business?
Not necessarily.
It depends.
Not necessarily.
There can be pros and cons to that situation. So each situation, it just depends.
Well, how many NSFs are on the personal account?
Yeah.
Because if there's a lot, then no, you don't want to have that the same thing.
Insufficient fund fees. So bank history, we don't want to just be keeping cash around. Banking history for a business is very, very important. Very, very important. Having positive ending bank balances, overdrafts, those can literally kill our banking record and our banking history. We want to keep a very good, clean business banking history. I've ran into issues, ended up having to transfer banks, and I've ran into issues with having personal at the same account. Now, if your business is doing okay and you don't run into any issues there, then there's no problem. But it just depends. I've been in a situation where I had the business bank account and the personal account, and there was some crazy fraudulent stuff that started transpiring with the business, and it overlapped into the personal. And they started pulling funds because they were linked. Also, issues, it's a lot easier to commingle funds that way. But then there's also on the other side, if you know how to properly manage it, it can also be a huge lifesaver that they're linked. It just depends on where you're at. Both, there's pros and cons.
So should you transfer money from your personal to your business?
Just depends. It depends. As long as you're able to track that. I have a very bad history of commingling things and not tracking what these are. That transfer that's coming in, are we taking a draw? Is this a loan? Is this, what kind of relationship is that transaction? Now we have an accountant that really works with us to make sure we're lining up things right. It's like, well, what was that transfer of $200 for 2 years ago? I have no idea. It's like, you transferred $50 December 4th, 2017. What was that for? Like, you're joking, right? I don't know. Yes.
I have a situation, I had paid my creditors with my business credit card. But I figured, hey, there's no money in there.
Personal creditors?
Well, I have a credit card, and I was for my company. I have a credit card, and I had money in there, okay. But I used that card to pay on a credit card. But I said, oh, because I knew it was, I didn't have the money in there. But that credit card company went and took the money against my business. Anytime you have a business account and you owe money, they can go into that account and take the money. If you have a personal bank account and there's no money in there, well, they can't get it. But they took money from my business account And I didn't know why I was like overdrawn in my business account. Is because they went in to that business and took the money. It's not the same way if you have a personal account and you owe on your credit card, they cannot just go into your account and take it. But when you have business and you have money owed out there, they can go into your business and take the money.
And that's
That's
one of those
what
things, it
happened to
depends
me.
too. What
Yeah.
type of business was it?
Well, it was a real estate.
Was it an LLC or was it a sole, like a doing business
A
as?
C corp.
It was a C corp.
Yeah, and
That's very interesting.
yeah,
So
and they went in and took the money and it's
I
like,
would actually look into that a little bit further because, I mean, they shouldn't be able to necessarily do that. But, so something happened in that case where it could be some type of same bank situation.
Mhm.
Was it the same bank or?
well, it was through a credit card through U.S. Bank, and my business is also at U.S. Bank, and I owe money for the credit card, and they went into the business account and took the money.
That's the case, yes. Because if you're the only one on there and you're in the same bank, so this is exactly the scenario that I was talking about. It's like one of those things when you're at the same thing, it can many times when we are signing all these banking documents, we are giving that bank the authority to have reign over everything we have with them.
Yeah.
And so when it is that same situation, that's one of those kind of what we were talking about earlier. Do you want to create separation between your business and for those reasons exactly?
We'd mentioned earlier on, one of the reasons for starting corporations, business entities and everything else is for separation. So it would make sense that if you're going to do bank accounts and that, don't have it in the same place as your personal stuff. Keep it separate, keep the separation.
Yeah, and like I said, it just depends on what your personal goals are. Because for me personally, I like that. Some others prefer to be in the same.
If your bank account is in the negative,
Yeah.
and you owe money and it's a business account, they can go in and take the money from the business. And that's what happened.
We might need to hold questions till lunchtime so we can keep this day on track.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great questions, but let's
What time
let's
is
talk
lunch?
about
What
it.
time is lunch?
12:30.
12.
What time are we doing lunch?
12:30.
All right, so we'll be breaking in 15 minutes. All right, so as we are talking about these issues that can come up, these are problems that have to be solved. I'm going to put a little problem up here, and when you have a solution to the problem, or you know what the answer is, you know, it could be really anything, raise your hand, and I'll call on you. Cool? Nobody?
Yeah.
All right.
That's fine. Listed twice.
Spot. Yes. That is the mistake. Is spot is twice. Who is looking at colors? Who is looking at numbers? I looked at the numbers. Some of you may have seen something similar to this before. It's kind of one of those scenarios where count the F's in this paragraph, and we always skip of because our mind just goes by it really quickly. Who skipped over the second spot? Yeah, we all did. Or not all of us, but I'd say more, at least half of us did. The problem is we create these little shortcuts in our mind, and as you're reviewing your documents, you're going to create these little shortcuts. We had signed some documentation on one of our new businesses that we have done this a million times, and our office girl, because she uses our system to build the business credit, she's like, whoa, like, how did you guys already screw this up? We gotta go change these documents. And we're like, we literally just got them in the mail. How are they wrong? Yes, we both signed on the paper authorizing the wrong address. So on the documentations, it said Hayden Street. The office is located on Hayden Road. That was the problem. That little difference between ST and RD. Is somebody going to really catch that? Is the Postal Service still going to realize what you meant and send the mail over there? Most likely, yes. But the underwriter, the computer algorithm, won't miss that. And that's the problem, is as that application comes through, that will trigger a red flag and it'll get kicked out. But are they gonna say that it's because of my address is the reason we got kicked out? No, they're not gonna tell you. They're gonna say lack of time in business. All of these things, they see your 411 is not there, lack of time in business. Unestablished entity, something along those lines, because they figured if you've been in business and you're successful, it would be corrected. Does that make sense? All right, so does everything match? We're gonna have to run down the line there. Business name, address, phone number, fax number, email, all these things. We gotta check Secretary of State. There's no corporation commission here, is there? No, you guys don't. So there's, I believe, 11 states that have corporation commissions, Arizona being one of them. But you have the Secretary of State, you gotta check your documentation on that. Your name, your address, all that. IRS, licensing authorities, your bank, your website, credit bureaus. We'll dive into credit bureaus next. 411.com, you have to check your listing. See, once you actually get these listings out there and you get these agencies with your information, or you submit the corrections, you still got to go back and verify again. Anybody have an ampersand in their business name? Anybody know what that is? Like the little and symbol? If you are planning on starting a business, do not use one, because that is a nightmare. Because people will like to, other companies, other agencies like to spell it out. Whoever's inputting it, I don't even know what that is or how to putting that up. I'm just going to put and. Big problem. We have a business with that, and that's how we know. And so I'm just trying to save you from some of that heartache. So as you're going through IRS, licensing authorities, and then, oops, you don't have 411 directory, penalty, 15-yard loss of business credit. And that could be because you are not in the directory. Right, like that. Remember, so what we're going to be talking about today is how to get your business credit established without using your personal social security number. Now, you can also use your social security number, but you want to use it in the right ways. There's a lot of power behind that. All we're talking about right now is building the field so you can start playing the game. We haven't even started. I mean, right now it's just showing up clothed. That's really what it is. It's putting your best suit on. It's putting a fancy dress on your business and showing up the right way. That's really what we're doing. Next, after this, because we'll just go ahead and break for lunch right now, we'll dive into, or should I dive into, we got 10 minutes, should I just cover?
Why don't you get up to the lunch break and just go through it? Because you're going to go more into depth after lunch.
That's very true.
So just get up to the lunch.
You're right. Okay, let's just go through that because then we can recover this after lunch. Business credit reports. You gotta go set it up. When you got a credit card, did you set up your TransUnion account? Did you call TransUnion and say, hey, I'm gonna apply for a credit card? Loan? No, you didn't. You have to do it on the business. Heard it in the back, Dun & Bradstreet. There you go. Dun & Bradstreet is the biggest bureau of business credits. They are the biggest reporting agency. They are a data collection company. Remember that. So when you go to Dun & Bradstreet, you need to get set up with what is called a DUNS number. Dun & Bradstreet has their own unique identifier for your business because they track businesses all over the world. This is how they're going to start scoring you when you have an established DUNS score. Or actually, I should say, DUNS number, it's established, so people can report to that. They are scoring you on what's called the PAYDEX. This is the PAYDEX model. Personal is FICO. This is PAYDEX. 0 to 100. 0 to 100. If you're below 50, you're a high risk. 50 to 79, medium risk. 80 to 100, low risk. 80 to 100, that's the equivalent of having, great personal credit. 800, 850. When you're at 100 score, if you walked into a bank with, say, an 850, what is your confidence on your personal side? If you had an 850 personal credit score, you're going to get approved. You just know it. So what we're going to get you is 80 to 100 for your business because that's considered perfect. Now, what is the big determining factor on this? Well, so if you can read this, it's all based on payment history. If you have a score of 100, they're expecting your payment will be early. If you have an 80, That means your payments are always on time. So to get a perfect 80, just pay your bills. Pay your bills on time. Never be late. It's payment history only. That is the power of this and how you can build it. You could have these cards maxed out. It could be nothing but brand new accounts. It could be all just one type of account. That won't affect the Paydex score. So in order to get a perfect business score, all you have to do is pay your bills actually early. That's all you have to do. Pay them early. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. But there's Equifax Small Business and Business Experian. These are some smaller, Equifax and Experian are large on the personal side, but now they're trying to catch up on the business side. You also will have to worry about them as well, because just like certain accounts that you have, some will report to Experian, some will report to TransUnion. Same as on business. Some will report here, some will report there. You need to have an assortment of these experiences with these reporting agencies. So you have to go and get them set up. The number one is Dun & Bradstreet. You're actually going to have to call. Dun & Bradstreet, let's go back to them for a minute. When you're setting this up with Dun & Bradstreet, they are the data collection company. They are the business credit gurus. They understand that. They understand you need to have a DUNS number. And so they're going to want to charge you for their services. They have, we have this program and this program and this program and this program. We need you to sign up for that. And if you don't know any better, you don't realize that you can actually get through them, set up your account, and get your number for free. That is a possibility. And there's a lot of things you do not want to tell them, especially if you're in startup mode. And we'll dive into that a little bit after lunch. Okay, so let's take a look at Walmart real quick. Walmart has 60,000 different accounts. That stuff that's in their stores, they do not pay for. That is all on lines of credit. Somebody is a little business, is a vendor, they ship them product, and then they invoice them, they sell it, they pay them back. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they do not pay for all that stuff. It's all leveraged. All right, so they have over 60,000 accounts. These are credit accounts. How many accounts are showing up on their business credit reports? That's the next problem. So out of those 60,000, now you can go check any business you want. You can check their reports if they have them. Much different. I want to go check John's credit report. I can't do that without him knowing and giving me approval. That's actually a federal offense. I could go to prison for pulling his credit without him knowing. Now, on this, checking out Walmart tells us where it is. It'll let us know that yes, they have a score, yes, they have a profile, before actually the full report's several hundred pages. But who wants to take a guess on the trade lines? On how many trade lines is basically the payment experiences, their credit accounts they have. It could be financial accounts as well. Out of the 60,000, how many show up? 60,000?
Roughly.
513. That's a problem. 7% in the big picture report. You know why? Because Dun & Bradstreet will charge you if you want to report your credit accounts. So let's say that I have a store and I have some credit accounts out there. Well, in order to report to Dun & Bradstreet, I need to have minimum 300 accounts. I need to be integrated into their system with QuickBooks. That means I got to have some extra staff to support this. I also have to be in one of their programs, and the cheapest one I found was $2,000 a year. Now, it's a lot easier and inexpensive to report negatives. And you're like, wait. So yes, to report positively, it costs your business money if you want to report. But you can report negative stuff without it being a big cost to you. So if you screw up, they will report. But if you do it really well, they won't. That's the problem. Mainly because these are little businesses like this. Swamp coolers, pads. This is a little company in Tucson. They make pads there in their warehouses. I would show up because I had a job to go service, and I would shake their hand and be like, hey, at the end of the day, once I get paid, I'm going to come back and pay this back. Extend me some credit for a few days. If I did not pay them back, they would let everybody else know not to work with me and that I'm not, an honest guy. That is the basis of credit. So there's 4 rounds of funding, and like I said, we're going to dive into these really in depth at the end, or actually after lunch. But there's 4 quarters. That's really what it is. The first quarter is vendor credit. It's getting these beginner accounts. These are usually in the form of what's called a net 30. Who does not know what a net 30 is? Okay, so a net 30. I have a store and I sell office supplies. You come to me, you're a brand new business, and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to take a bet on you guys. I'll extend you $100 on a net 30 account. That means you can spend $100 with me, interest free. Most of them are interest free. And I expect that you pay me back in full in 30 days. Make sense? Now, and I'll dive into a little bit later on what happens if you don't pay in 30 days. Then they will start to report negatively. Anybody ever missed a personal credit card payment? You know, it just like gets lost on the counter. It's not set up for automatic payments and whatever. You miss it. And they charge you a fee or whatever. And if it was your first time, you can usually get that fee removed. Did it report though on your credit, your personal credit? For being 1 day late?
No.
Typically, no. Typically, you have about 30 days you have to actually be late before they actually report. Business is different, especially these beginner accounts. They can mark you late for being 1 day late. If you make your payment the due date and it takes 1 day to process, that in their system could trigger it to be late. Then your score will start to fall. So not all the businesses will report it that quickly, but I would not play around, especially with these beginner accounts, because they can report you late for that 1 day. Because if I'm borrowing money from John and he doesn't know me and nobody else knows me, and then 30 days comes along and I haven't paid him, by day 31, he's going to tell everybody to make sure that they don't lend me money because he figures I'm long gone. 97% of them do not report. Now you're like, wait a second, Ray, you said 7% a minute ago. Yes, in the big picture. 3% of vendors actually report. So remember, these are these small startup companies who are big enough to report, but willing to take a bet on the small guy. So in the big world of these, who will actually give you credit, only 3% are currently actively reporting to the bureaus. That's the problem. This is the biggest problem there.
What's the net 30 account?
Net 30 account. That's where you can come and shop at so like what we were just talking about, where you can come, purchase $100 and then pay it back within 30 days. And next, after we did, so as we're in the vendor credit and we get these accounts set up, we need to get 6 of these. So this is the other trouble. We have to get 6 that report. So if 3% actually report, how many companies would we have to go through to find 6? 200. Yes, that's what we did. That's what our business is. We went through and found those that report. And there's not that many. Out of all the businesses out there, there's really not that many. And that is what we did. And so a little bit later, that's what we're going to talk about, is all that data that we've collected. Next, store credit. After we get these accounts and they're reporting, that's why we had to set up our monitoring service so we can make sure they're reporting. Now we go and apply for these businesses. More commonly known, Amazon, Staples, Walmart, Best Buy. But there's one up here that does not report. I gave you 3 that do, 1 that doesn't. Anybody want to take a guess on which company does not report?
Amazon.
No, Amazon's good. Best Buy, actually. Best Buy.
But will they check your business credit?
Oh yeah, they'll check. They'll check, they just won't report. Except for, then it gets into a little tricky situation because, okay, actually I'm going to come back to that. But yes, Best Buy does not report store accounts. Amazon, they could give you a net 55. So just relate that. In Amazon, or in net accounts, when it's a net 30, that payment was due within how many days?
30.
Yeah, payment needs to be in there and processed well before that. Shoot for 22 days. 55 account, but it could be a much higher limit. Amazon could give you $10,000. I could barely get $1,000 for a personal card. But remember, it's a business card, business account. So businesses need a lot more than personal use. So these accounts can be really big. How big these are depends on how well you did the first round. If you did really, really well the first round, you're going to get those huge limits here. And that could be the difference between a $4,000 Amazon or a $10,000 Amazon. And that is really important because we're going through 4 phases here. We went through the vendor account, now we're on the store credit account, and we have to do really good here, and then even better in the 3rd, which is now the fleet credit account. These are, hold on.
Can I back up a second?
Yeah.
What you're talking about there is lines of credit at the stores that have to be paid in full, net, whatever the term. They're not.
If it's a net, yes. If it's not, because some of these are going to be net accounts where it has to be paid in full, and some will be revolving accounts. So some of these are revolving accounts where they have a minimum payment. On your invoice, it will say, you know, if it's a net account and it has to be paid in full, or if it's a revolving account, then you don't have to pay in full. Your beginner accounts are typically going to be paid in full. They're going to need to be paid in full. Then they're just going to slowly migrate to revolving where they're allowing you to carry balances over. But it'll still, like, you know, when you have a Staples revolving account, you can only still use it at Staples. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now we move into fleet credit. These tend to be a lot of times, you know, these could be a little bit of both. Also, these are cards for maintenance. These are gas cards. These are for tires. These are where we actually start working towards getting vehicle financing. Yes, there is vehicle financing without using your social. Pretty powerful stuff. And so if you need equipment, trucks, trailers, all that great stuff, this is where we start to build that credit. Same thing here. We got to go get 4 to 6 accounts. Then, after we get those accounts, and they're all reporting, then we move on to the cash credit. Because when we have 14 accounts that are actually reporting positively on our credit reports, on our business credit reports, then that's when we can go and start to apply for the business lines. The Visas, the MasterCards, the American Expresses, because, like I said earlier, when we have that group that we've already satisfied and borrowed from, we built that history. At this point, we have an excellent business credit rating. Now we can go apply for these other types of funding. There's all these cards out there. Some always require Social Security numbers, some don't. Some only report on business. Some report on both personal and business. And so then that goes into a whole nother problem. If you have a business card that only reports to your personal side, you can't use it without it negatively affecting your utilization. If you have a business card that's only on your business, you could run it all the way up and it won't affect your personal credit. That's the power of it. So if you have the ability to go and apply for a bunch of business cards, all that might show up on your personal side is inquiries, not a whole bunch of accounts. So just think about the possibilities of that, because if you were to go out and apply for a bunch of personal credit cards, that would shut you down from doing anything personal for quite some time. But what if those accounts that you got approved for did not show up and all there was some inquiries? Think about that. All right, so direct funding. This is another thing that we can do. When you have good personal credit and you want to jumpstart your business, we can do that. Or after you build your business credit, then we can help find more funds for you. So we talked about 6 to 12 months is how long it can take to build a good business credit score. The great thing is, what do you do with that once you build it? Well, let's go find lines of credit, let's find loans, let's find other resources out there. This is what we can do. There's many types of financing you may qualify for now. And this is something we can definitely talk about, because if you already have a business, you may be able to get some money right now and you don't even know it. There's revenue lending, merchant cash advances. Anybody have a business where they swipe credit cards? Yep, this is one of the biggest ways to get money instantly. If you take payments, Square, PayPal, you probably might already approve, you could get approved for some funding right now if you have a consistent track record of taking payments. Now, if you're just running like 3 payments a month, that's not going to necessarily qualify. But if you're, like my wife, she has this little nail lady, and she runs $40 payments a couple times a day. Instantly was able to access $6,000, instant approvals, just like that. And then she took that money and went and invested in real estate. It's beautiful. Accounts receivable. There's purchase order financing, startup unsecured business financing, book of business, insurance guys. Are you building a book of business? Yeah. You can actually purchase other insurance agencies with using the book of business as leverage.
Yeah, I've I've seen companies that offer those services to like us, and that's what they do, is basically, you know what I'm saying? They'll guarantee a loan on your size of your book of business and.
Exactly. Leveraging it, for sure. 401k financing, securities financing, commercial vehicle financing, commercial real estate financing. These are all things that we can help you with. Peer-to-peer lending, angel investing. We can help with venture capital, private investments, equity investments, inventory financing, equipment sale leasebacks, SBA loans, term loans, business lines of credit, house flipper financing, and crowdfunding. So we can do, if you want to sit down and do a consultation, we will actually go through and find anything that you qualify for, no charge up front. Now, if we're gonna get you some loans, there's fees on those loans. There's origination things. There's stuff like that. Each type of financing has its own little fees that go along with that. But for us to just go find you that funding doesn't cost you anything, which is really cool. All right. So after we do all this stuff, let me tell you a little bit about the Phyllis and Thelma sample. They have a company called Success Tax Relief out of LaPorte, Texas. Now, this is their situation. They went to their bank to get business lines of credit and they got turned down. They started with the financial advisor along with the business credit builder program, set up their business credibility, they built their business credit. After following these steps, they've now secured over $96,000 in business credit cards and applied for the Platinum American Express, got approved instantly with no limit. Now they have 4 to 5 different companies calling them each and every day, trying to give them money, and that's a great problem to have. Is that true though? When the stock ticker is going up, people want to get on board. Who wants to invest in Amazon if you had some extra money? They're doing swell. But what happens if, their stock's falling? Everybody wants to bail. They want to get out. They're going to short it. They're going to do all these other things.
You can skip past the red. We've got so many
Yeah, so this is Christine. She has a trucking company. We have, over-the-road truckers. These are all different accounts, and as you see, they start to stack up for sure, and they just keep increasing in price and limits. Because when you have, when BP gave you an $8,000 gas card, and then all of a sudden you got Pilot Flying J giving you a $50,000 card, and you're into trucking, whose card are you going to use? Yeah, they always want to be the top dog. They're always trying to beat out the next person. And guess what? All those require no consumer credit check or personal guarantees. She has now successfully achieved 100 on her Paydex score. She said check your mail because she had an approval for a $15,000 line that she didn't even see for her fuel card, that she didn't even notice in her email. And she has a substantial amount of business lines of credit. Now she's been doing this for a little while and she's been growing it. She has cash flow in her business, but this is how you do it, folks. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. Marlon McKinney now has over has now over $1 million in credit. $1 million in credit, and just keeps leveraging that to his advantage. Amazing guy. And then, let's see, who else we were talking about. Now, on our website, wiseguysandtides.com, you can see all sorts of video testimonials we have up and down the board. We got so many. Like Dr. Brennan, he was drowning because of tax debt. Built his business credit to pay off his tax debts, and then now has secured over $1.5 million in funding for his business. Absolutely amazing. Will it work for you? You're probably wondering that. And yes, if you do the work, because it's just like anything else, it takes work. Spent Joseph and I almost 3 years trying to build business credit on our own until we really started to enlist the services of professionals to really help us do it. And now that's why we became experts, because it took us so much effort. We're doing this and it's not working. We're doing it, it's not working. And it turned out the problem was we didn't know who to apply for. We had all these accounts we were applying for and none of them were showing up. This is driving us nuts. We're wasting money. So these are the companies that you want to go. So like Abigail, she's getting her 9th vendor set up, and when you get these accounts, please share them on social media because other business owners need to know these things. So they have 6 trade lines, getting gas cards for Abigail. Let's see, we got T, we got Shayna, we got Laverne getting her commercial cards. T got a $17,000 line of credit at Amazon, no personal guarantee. $4,000 net 55 for Dion. This is what is this one? This is a $50,000 credit line at Pilot Flying J for JC. We got Felicia, let's see, what is that? That's another $4,000 Amazon, lots of Amazon accounts. ExxonMobil's American Express, so Renee, $9,000 American Express card. Luis, $20,000 American Express with no personal guarantee, no social security number, $50,000 business line of credit for Mary. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, the approvals is just, we have so many success stories of people getting like business lines, Home Depot cards. But yeah, it's lunchtime. So don't bite off more than you can chew. Because when you get these huge... And plus, we don't want you coming back falling asleep. But when you have a $17,000 gas card, that could get out of hand really quickly if you don't have the funds to pay for it. Many of these accounts only require one purchase in a 12-month period. And it may just have, it could be a $50 purchase. And that's all you need. And you gotta do that 14 times. But each account is different. Is it 50? Is it 100? Or are they gonna split up an invoice and that won't report? We'll dive into that a little bit after lunch and how that actually works. But right now we're gonna take,
Can I give a little preview of why you want to come back after lunch? Because he just showed you the strategy of how we do it. We're going to specifically show you a case example of an actual business and how we actually build business credit. So you'll see how it's actually done, as well as I'm going to blow your minds this afternoon by introducing you to a strategy of how you can use business credit to help you fix your own personal credit if you have any personal credit issues, or if you have a lot of debt. I'm going to show you how to eliminate your debt very quickly while at the same time growing your business credit. So that's why you want to come back after lunch.
and we got 1 hour, so be back in this room ready to go by 1:45. Perfect?
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, sounds good. See you guys soon.
Food for lunch around here. Oh, yeah. When you go up to Decatur, if you go left, before you
And then, oh, what's around here?
Mexican places,
Ramen bar?
Little sub shops, coffee places.
Sub shops, coffee places.